Welcome to Paradox Untold Stories from Athletic Directors. I am Dr. Danielle LaPointe, and my co host is Dr. Dustin Smith. We are in Virginia today with Jim Harris. Thank you for being here today, Jim.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm very excited to be here. It is a little intimidating, coming off of Three Socks Moran and Code Red Steve. I'm ready to see if I can share some good stories.
Well, before we jump right into it, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Ticket Spigot, for the official ticketing partner of the NIAAA. I know Dustin is excited and raring to go today, so would you like to properly introduce our guest?
And would I ever? And I've been waiting for this for quite a while. I've talked to Jim a few times, and Jim and I, it's much like Cole. We got to know each other through the NIAAA U cohort, and just gleaned incredible amounts of wisdom. Jim and I talk on a regular basis, and we kind of bounce some fun stories off of ideas. So I'm excited to introduce to you Jim Harris and visit with Jim. And Jim is in Virginia, and he's at a school that you look at it now and see Alexandria City Schools, but you don't understand maybe what that really means. And maybe you can remember with me, maybe go back to a blockbuster movie not long ago. Maybe you can remember the Titans, but that's the school Jim Harris is at, and I'm excited to talk about just life with Jim, because there's many. If you watch The Blind Side, Big Mike was like an onion. You got to peel him back layers at a time. Well, Jim is like that. He's got more stories and more situations that he's been in that I'm excited to dig into. So, Jim, I'm excited to have you here and looking forward to having some discussion with you.
Great to be here. I'm ready to go, rock and roll.
So, for those who are listening, let's paint a picture of who Jim Harris is outside of the AD at Alexandria City Schools. What makes Jim Jim? What's fun for Jim? What do you do outside of quote unquote the AD role?
As you said, there's many facets to my life, but in the last few years, I could say I am the happy husband of my wife, and who's a great person, a school social worker. I got 3 kids. They're a handful. They're all in elementary school now. You think that would help with childcare, but didn't really set back too much, as my taxes recently just told me. I've had lots of different fun things in my life. At one point, I was a semi-professional wrestler at a very young age. I'm a retro video game collector. I had something like 600 or 700 video games on the wall behind me. And I'm a technology junkie, and I'm a lifelong learner. I love learning about anything I can. That's why I jumped on the NIAAA U cohort. Just want to learn more, and anything to get better.
Well, I want to dive into a couple things right there before we dive deep into your stories, Jim. But a semi-professional wrestler, what does that really look like? Were you in school? Were you traveling? Yes, were you a main attraction? Were you a masked man? I mean, there's so many questions.
Oh no, I went through wrestling school, and I was just doing the wrestling school thing, wanting to be a wrestler, knowing I would never actually ever be a good one. I don't share my name because Google is a terrible thing, and there may be one picture or one video out there I never want to have to come out. But my claim to fame is that I wrestled the Big Boss Man in an old '80s wrestler at one time for $25 down in a seedy little bar down near the hometown, and yeah, I had a bruise from the top of my head all the way down my leg, and it was the best $25 I ever spent.
Now the question is, was that wasn't in the '80s? You did that?
Oh no, this was the mid to late '90s.
Okay, so $25 at that point may have been a little different. I mean, you may be up to like 36, maybe add inflation. You may have been up to $42 now.
Not that much different.
I'm sure it didn't cover the doctor copay that I went and got it looked at. But I was happy as a lark.
I have this image of you in my head now of like coming out to a theme song.
Oh, yes, yes. And once we stop recording, I'll give you the real details. I can't have that out for the world to hear.
That's not a recorded version, huh?
No.
So, Jim, you also have spent time as a basketball coach. I
Mhm.
know that was what you did prior to becoming the AD. Do you miss coaching at all?
Oh, more so. Each year it grows a little bit. I fed that. I scratched that itch a little bit when my oldest was in first grade, and I went from being a varsity basketball coach to an assistant first grade coach, and I went from, I told my wife, I'm going from the penthouse to the outhouse, but it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I miss it. Just thinking of these, being on here, I go back to one of my favorite stories as a basketball coach. I can just know what my athletic director was going through at the time. I'm sitting there Saturday morning. I'm coaching JV. It's 11:30 in the morning. I may or may have not been out too late the night before, and there's three people in the gym, and I am ornery. And I told that official that he wasn't doing his job right. I told him that how he should have been doing it, and next thing you know, there's two whistles, and I'm getting pointed to the locker room. And as I said, there's like six people in the gym. All you hear on the radio, Jim Harris just got thrown out. Jim Harris just got thrown out, and it's like, and then you hear, he did what? And I was like, oh, all right. And then I just go walk off the court, high five the varsity assistant. I'm like, you're in. And just did the walk of shame and waited for the AD to come find me in my office to tell me how important sportsmanship is and how you shouldn't get thrown out of JV basketball games on Saturday mornings.
But I got a couple of things I want to ask, but I'm going to start with the high five. Like, was that like were you a tag team partner in wrestling and you gave a high five to tag in your teammate? Or was that what happened?
I was like, you got it. Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, you were gladly handing that baton at 11:30 on a Saturday morning.
Right. And it's like, I go back and I'm sitting there waiting for the ADs not coming out. And I was like, well, how many games has it been since I've been thrown out? And, got to about 150. And then I'm like, well, there goes that streak.
Yeah.
And then I get put on super top secret probation. Back 2 games later.
Have you been thrown out since?
Yes, one time, one other time, and
the dramatic pause. I like that.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I was my last season as the head coach. Our team wasn't very good, but we were playing the other not very good team in our district. So we were the Saturday night main event, and referees didn't think of it as the Saturday night main event. They were putting in their time, and I let them know. I let them know that they were out of position, and let them know that we're going to be a fast team. We may not make the layups, but we're going to run real fast and get there. And he never made it. He never made it as a lead official, and I let him know one more time, and then he let me know which door I should leave out of.
Jim, this isn't your fault. This is the semi-pro wrestler coming out and coaching. That's what this is.
Oh, I know. I was heck on wheels when I was a coach. I've had 10 years now to mellow and see the error of my ways, I guess you would. But now just being that coach, I know what that athletic director is going through. I know now if I see a coach just, on the sidelines rip roaring into an official, I know later on to tell him, hey, only thing it's going to get you is an early exit, and your team doesn't need that. But I love that fire, I love that desire. But now as some people say, we're on the dark side. I hate to take that passion away, but we have to do what's best for the team.
Do you ever just tap back into that wrestling school moment and think, all right, I can go off the top turnbuckle here if I need to, I can take care of this coach if he gets out of line. Do you ever try to
I,
get back into that?
oh, I'm 40. I'm in my 40s now, and I don't heal as good as I used to. I could do it once. I think if I got fired up in a game, I could do it one time, and that'd be it. Off.
Yeah, we're at the point in our lives now where we get bruised just talking about it, not actually doing it, just
Yes.
talking about it. We get a bruise.
Yes, I think my back just seized up thinking about it.
I could talk about this forever, and I know that's not the point of our conversation today. But, I'm just creating kinds of visuals in my mind and trying to
I'm
present
there
that
with
for
you.
people listening.
I'm right there with you.
I know people meet me now and they're like, "Oh, you used to be the football coach?" I'm like, "No, I was the basketball coach. I was 75 pounds ago."
And I'll tell you, when I first met Jim, I met him via Zoom, and I talked about this with Cole when he was on here. I didn't know he had arms and legs until we got in person, and then when I saw him, I had to take a double take because Jim was much bigger in person than I envisioned him being on Zoom. So it took me a minute just to collect myself and realize, okay, and now I can see why he was in wrestling school.
Yes. Yes, traveling is fun, just like Steve says. I mean, I'm not 6'7". I'm 6'3" on a good day, and but I'm close to 300 pounds, so it's always cumbersome traveling.
So, so Jim, let's talk about some stories. I know you've got them. We've talked a little bit about your coaching days and now how that's parlayed into the view that you have from your seat now. But I know you've got some stories from your time as an AD that you want to share with us.
Yeah, well, let's just talk about the time before I really got into being an athletic administrator. We'll go back to my athletic internship. I went when you are a teacher, the best way to start earning more money is to get more education. And so after I started teaching, I was like, well, I need a master's degree. So what are you good at? Can you get a master's degree in kumbaya? I mean, education, or can you get a master's degree in like education leadership, which would open doors? I always I thought I was going to be a career coach. I thought I was going to be 30 years of basketball and teaching math. But as I started into this education leadership program, I'm like, oh, I could be an AD. No, I could be an assistant principal. I don't want to be an assistant principal. All you see is the bad kids. So let me go back to being an AD where you get to see kids at their best all the time. So part of getting this degree is you got to do this, 6-month long internship, which means free work for the athletic office. And so my big project is I want to do the supervision plan for our football team. Where who's going to be where. How are we going to get people in, get people out. And, so football, I was the go-to guy on these football games. We had a very successful program where I was. And, we had this big matchup with the rival, thousands of people, which was great gate, great everything. But in the first half, the referee comes over to me and goes, "Hey, we got a problem with the chain gang." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Did they not show up? Are they slacking on the job? I mean, what's the deal? I'll find some new kids." And he goes, "No, they're adults." I'm like, "Oh, okay." But they're talking trash to the other coach. I'm like, okay,
Never good. Never good.
So all right,
Not good.
I'm just a coach. I'm trying to act, important, and I got a radio, so I'm great. So I walk over to those guys, and I go, "Hey, we can't talk to the other team. You just got to do that." And he's like, "All right, guy, yeah, no problem." And so goes to halftime. We're winning. It's close game. So after halftime, it's back and forth, back and forth. They stop the game and the referees come over to me. I'm like, "Oh man, what did one of our kids do? I mean, I'm trying to pay attention, but got this big game going." And he goes, "We're going to have to remove the chain gang." And I'm like, "What?" Yeah. I'm pretty sure they went out to the parking lot and drank a 6-pack before they came back in. And I was like, "Oh, okay, all right." And so
You had an intoxicated chain
yeah,
gang?
yeah. So I'm not even. I don't have a master's degree. I don't, I'm not really an athletic administrator. I'm just trying to act one. I play one on TV. I go over to these guys and I'm like, hey, what is going on here? And he's like, that guy, that coach can't coach. That referee can't referee. This is the worst game I've ever seen. I was like, all right, you guys got to go. You guys got to go. They refuse to go.
Oh.
What do you do? What do you do? I'm on the radio trying to find the real AD. I'm like, where the hell's the real AD? I mean, nowhere to be found.
Code red.
Code red. Appropriate code red.
I'm sure they're over there going, what's Harris going to do now? And so what does anybody do when they're afraid? Hey, I call the police over. We have a bunch of police. And next thing you know, the chain gang's over at the squad car, and I'm trying to find 3 JV kids to go do the chains for the second half of the game.
Oh my gosh. I would don't think that having an intoxicated chain gang has ever crossed my mind.
Right? I mean, most of the time you got like some kids doing it, or or just you got these 3 dads with the special shirt, just loving life.
Very serious, sprinting down the sideline.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, listening everywhere, but no, not here. Hey,
oh my God!
3 shades of the wind, and
now.
So did they go out at halftime and drink?
Oh no, this is during the third quarter. We had to try to make this transition as quick as possible, and without embarrassing the poor kids whose dads these are. And
is there really a way to go with dignity in that moment?
Never. Anytime you're asked to leave a game, it doesn't matter. You could in your mind think, oh, I'm looking big and bad as I'm walking out. No, you're doing the walk of shame. Get out.
Now, did you ever allow those dads to do the chain gang again?
Absolutely not. Nope. No. I am 90% sure this was a lot over a decade ago. I am pretty sure they got some trespass letters and they weren't allowed back on any kind of athletic endeavor.
So that's how parents have to get out of volunteering. From the chain gang drunk,
sure.
And then you're good for life.
If you don't mind a drunk in public, come on down.
Like, I guess my question to you is this: what was the conversation when you finally talked to the real AD? What would you do? What was that conversation like?
He was a great guy. I mean, he's a great guy. He's like, hey, all right, took care of it. All right, let's get back on the game. What can you do? He's all very laid back. So I was like, okay.
Oh man, that like puts a lot of heat on you at the moment because the game is stopped. The stands are looking at you. The officials are looking at you. Everyone's looking at you to fix this issue, and you're like, "I'm sorry, what?"
Yeah. Where is that? What book do I read that out of? Who do I talk to about that?
You make an announcement on the radio. Can the announcer please announce that we need chain gang ASAP to the field, 50-yard line?
No, I'm pretty sure my buddy who was an AP helped me out on that one. He was helping me find some people, I guess. I don't know. It's all blur after that.
How long was the game stopped?
I would say 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, it was quick, but not.
It felt longer for you, though, didn't it?
Oh, days. Could have been. I could have grew a full beard in that time. It was like,
and you still want to be an AD after that. You still wanted to get in this athletic administration mess.
Yeah. I some would say I was pot committed. I was already a year and a half in, so I was supposed to get through. And luckily for me, it stuck.
Man, the statute of limitations, if it's a decade ago, it's kind of run out. So those people, I mean, you didn't identify any of them by name, obviously, but I mean, just since that point, have you had any drunken binges on the sideline with your chain gang?
Oh no. It's funny. I'm going to talk later about our first home football game. We had a first night football game ever at Alexandria City. The mayor and the city council were on the chain gang for our first game. So Uh, and I did make a joke to the mayor. I did kick out some drunk chain gang before, so I don't want to catch him messing around.
Yeah,
Not
your
tonight.
reputation precedes you.
Yeah, yeah,
That's funny. You're gonna have so many 80s,
Mhm.
fall season comes around, they're gonna be walking by their chain gang just sniffing.
Yeah.
Make sure they don't smell anything.
Some people tell their kids, if you're going to do it, don't be noticed. Don't don't yell at the other team. Don't yell at the officials.
Oh man, that's a rough one, especially for an intern. But I now enjoy your story for
Hey,
sure.
great.
Yeah, it's great to laugh at you now, Jim. I can imagine in that moment.
Oh yeah, it's that should have clued me in on the awesomeness of this profession.
I'm just trying to figure out that first conversation when you got told, "Okay, I think your chain gang went out and had a 6-pack and came back in." I'm thinking, "Wait, what? I mean, am I hearing this right?"
Yeah, I, hey, you you got to expect the unexpected, right? I mean, got a couple thousand people here. Hey, it's like,
The official tells you, and you're like, "What? So that's not allowed? You want me to
yeah.
remove them?"
I'm sure if they had had a couple of sips, I'm sure we have a couple teachers here or there that go in to have a toddy during the lunchtime, but you can't be noticed. You can't yell at the other team. You can't try to fight the other coach. You can't tell the official that's not where the ball was spotted.
Oh, chain gangs. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so,
Well,
so as we move on to another story, does this involve any drunken people, or is this a
No,
whole different
no,
avenue?
no. This one's kind of recent. I'm a dive guy. Somehow I got this label of uh, dive mates go see Jim Harris, and so I don't know if you guys ever run a dive meet. You got to bring your equipment there. You got to bring a printer. You got to bring a computer. You got to score it. You got to post stuff on a wall. It's the only time now, that in athletics that you can post something on the wall and everybody's good with it. You cut kids now, and with the
and put
list
it on
on
the
the
wall.
wall, the newspaper calls you. But dive, you get your scores, you put them on the wall. They see how they fall. So I'm setting up for this dive meet. They're always kind of different because you always have a bunch of different jurisdictions. I got my friends in Fairfax, I got my friends in Arlington, and us in Alexandria, the one school. So it's always troublesome with technology. I told you I fancy myself a technology guy, and I also know that geography is big on this podcast. I'm in the Mid Atlantic. I'm right near DC. I'm 20 minutes outside of Washington D.C. It doesn't get very cold. It gets really hot, but it never gets real cold. For this particular dive meet in the morning, it was kind of cold. 20, 50, 10, 20 degrees. I know Florida. My good friend Jake Touchdown, he loves to talk about how warm it is in Florida. But we don't get very many days like this, but we did. And so we get there, in dive, you can change your dive order up to 30 minutes before you actually jump into the pool. And so that means redoing a sheet, printing it out, getting them to sign it. It's a whole process. So I go to make this first dive change. This is like an hour before the meet. So I got 30 minutes to make changes. I print it blank. Okay, I'm using my buddy's printer from Fairfax. I'm like, okay, maybe there's a connection between Alexandria and Fairfax computers. So it's like always be prepared, right? That's the motto of the Boy Scouts than any athletic director. I brought my own personal little printer laptop. So I run outside, grab my printer, bring it in, hook it up, make the changes, print, blank. Crap. Well, I mean, what is it? Is it drivers? I mean, technology's great, but it takes time. And I'm like, what is this? And so I open up the printer, the first printer, big heavy thing, and the ink cartridge or the ink jet thing is like watered over because it had been sitting out in the car all night. So it's warming up, and so it's moisture. It's like, my printer's been in the car for an hour, the drive down there, and I look at mine, and same thing. It's like, well, what in the heck? What do you do? What do you do? So you got to print. You got to do this. You can't do it by hand. We're not archaic. We have to have it printed. We can't be handwritten. So I called my buddy at another school right down the road. I'm like, "Hey, can you get me a printer here? How fast can you get it? And make sure it's inside. It's been inside. It hadn't been outside. I can't have another frozen printer cartridge." And he's like, "I can't get there for another half hour." I was like, well, what do you do? So I said, well, it's cold. Let's just print 100 copies, and maybe it'll warm up. Maybe it's just like these kids. It needs a little warm up. So I print 10, 12, 15, 20. It's still blank. I'm like, well, I tried. Then about 25, you could see a little bit. 30, a little bit more. So by 75, it's printing wonderfully. And it's like, so you're telling me that 2 printers got too cold to work? And who thinks of that?
Frozen ink.
Yeah, frozen ink. Yes, the
Speaking of who thinks of that, that's a great idea to just keep printing to like warm your ink up. I don't know if I would have been like, oh, I'll just keep on printing to make my ink warm. Like,
yeah, I don't know how I came up with that, but it's like, well, especially when you got everybody's like, is it working? Is it working? Is it working? I'm like,
have you tried
no.
this? Do this. Did you restart it?
Everybody's an expert. Call IT? Everybody knows how to set up a printer. But yes, and I give myself credit. I stayed calm. Normally, the young coach Jim Harris would have been like, "Beat it! I need space." But now it's like, yeah, I'm working on it. Don't worry, we'll get it done. We'll figure something out.
So here's my question, and I'm just thinking this is maybe to get the distraction off of there. Did you ever think about just saying, you know what? Maybe I'll go do a dive off the board or off the platform for these kids, and maybe that will just take the distraction away from all these people in my ear telling me. Did you ever think about donning the old Speedo and jumping off there?
In 20-degree weather. In 20-degree weather.
No, we're inside. The actual dive is inside, yes, but yes, outside, getting up there. No. My wife was a college diver, and the cannonball is the best, or maybe a moonsault back to a belly flop. That's about all I'm going to do. And as I said, I haven't done that in years, and I would probably crush. I'd crumple zone, get the lifeguard out, and the athletic trainer, because he ain't coming back.
And go ahead and have 9 and 1 dialed in your phone before you jump.
But also kudos to you for having a traveling printer. I did not do that as an AD, and now I feel inferior as an AD for not traveling with the printer.
Only on these dive meets, because I've been burned so many times where technology is fickle, and then especially when it's cold out. I guess I would have never thought that ink froze in something that uses heat, but hey.
I mean, who knew?
You shined a light on something I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Who'd have thought? I don't know how our friends out west deal with it. I mean, I've never even heard of this. We have our group chat where everybody shows, oh, we're at -9 today. Oh, it's a warm streak. It's like, you never talk about your printers freezing. I guess. Thanks for the heads up, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, they're worried about their cars not starting. They're worried about stuff like that. Not worried about printers freezing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they may listen to this, and we may hear from like Mark Rarick and say,
I was going to say, where's Mark when we need him?
Yeah, you ding dong, it happens. It gets cold there.
Yeah. Who would have thought? As I said, mid-Atlantic, it's always cold for me is not cold for some people, I guess. I mean,
well, you and Danielle are in that same boat, because cold for her is like 70.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
I like it that way.
So
Yeah.
we've talked about a drunk chain gang. We've talked
Mhm.
about a frozen printer cartridge. Do you have another one for us that you
Yeah,
can?
this is our my favorite. We're a pretty famous high school. I mean, we're probably one of the most famous with Remember the Titans. T.C. Williams. Big chain name changer, Alexandria City now. So we're a little bit undercover, but we have this story. We have this storied football program. We have never had a night game. We have never had a home night game. We have never had lights at Alexandria City. And five,
Wait,
7 years, like,
just really?
yeah, we no lights. So I mean, when they built the school, I don't think I guess it wasn't a thing 30, 40 years ago. But when it became a thing, there was always been issues with our community. They don't want the lights. They think only thing the lights bring out are the thugs and the bugs. I don't. What could it's been very litigious, but we finally 5 years ago got it approved to have lights, and then we went to court for 5 years, and then it's great. All right, now we can have lights, but but then the world shut down, and we've done everything. We played our home games at an indoor facility. I mean, like a dome, like an indoor, the St. James place, which is a great facility. We're like the first team in Virginia to play their home games inside. And then, we were assured that the stadium would be ready for the next season. Well, then COVID hit, and the stadium is not even being worked on yet. So we played a year on the road. It was a shortened season due to COVID, but we played all our games on the road. And so then, fast forward a year, we are assured that the stadium will be ready. So this is I was lucky enough to have, the NIAAAU cohort, because we missed our first scheduled night game because it wasn't ready. And then 2 weeks later, we were supposed to open it up. And a week before the game, Dustin could attest to this. I sent out pictures to the cohort going, "Can I play this game in a week? Is it even possible to fix the bleachers, put siding on a building, get a concession stand up and running?" And they're like, "Well, if it's safe, play it. It may not look good, but play it." And I was like, "Well, I don't know. I mean, if it's the first night game ever, you want it to be special." But wasn't perfect, but we got to our first night game.
Oh, so there's a lot of excitement. There's a long time coming for this. Like,
Yes,
you are ready.
yes, and I could say over the last decade, no disrespect to the football program, it hasn't been great. We've had some winning seasons, some losing seasons, but it's not been that Remember the Titans community, you go getter. Our Saturday games or our Friday afternoon games have gotten 300-400 people, maybe 600 at homecoming. So it's like, okay, all right, maybe we'll get a little bit more than that. So we're doing, we're great. We're doing online tickets, so we can gauge on what the number of people are going to be here, gauge the interest of the community. And, so by, let's say, noon of the game, it's like 800 to 1,000 tickets sold. All right, that's great. That's great. That's more than we've ever had. So we'll be okay. So up until the ribbon cutting ceremony, we have construction workers coming to and from, moving things, setting things up. We don't have a PA system. That's back ordered. So how do you make public address announcement? The city contracts a sound group to come in. And it's like, I wouldn't have thought of that. And so comes to the ribbon cutting ceremony. The mayor's there, the city council. It's a big thing for the city of Alexandria.
I'm almost like nervous to where this is going now.
Oh,
I need my seat now.
Yeah. So then, we've sold 1,000 tickets, maybe 1,300, and there's just a sea of people outside. There's a sea, and we have our ticket takers set. We're gonna sell some cash tickets at the door, even though we probably shouldn't have. And and bam, open the doors. As I said, the mayor and the city council's gonna do the chain gang. They're good. They passed the sobriety test, or the passing sobriety test, and there's just a sea of people, sea of people. They keep going. They just keep coming. And I have a special kid. He looks at, I'm walking by him, and he goes, Mr. Harris, we have 1,262 seats on our side, and then there's 800 seats on the other. I don't know if we're going to keep everybody. I was like, well, we never had that many people. It's not going to happen. And so the principal, game gets started. It's just people are still coming in. And the principal comes up to us in the athletic office, is like, when are we going to stop selling tickets? I'm like, is that a thing? Do we stop ever selling tickets? I mean, everything's going on this night. We have our Hall of Fame induction, so we have Hall of Famers on the field. You got kids everywhere, and he's like, "Well, how many tickets have you sold?" I said, "Well, what? Oh, 1,700 online tickets." Well, how many cash tickets have you sold? I don't know. I mean, how do you gauge that, right? Yeah. So, luckily, our athletic operations guy got it right. He gave each ticket taker a fresh roll of tickets, like start at zero. And I was like, oh, let me go check on that. So we're at 2,600 people by halftime.
For your normal 300 crowd.
Right. So you have to shut everything down, and people are trying to sneak in through the fence, and trying to bully their way in. Luckily we had 20, 30 police officers, and even some that we were paying, and then even some that were just there for the spectacle, and we needed all of them. But I guess that's a happy problem. But yeah, how do you deal? Yeah, I mean, even with online ticketing, how many you're going to have, but
more showed up.
Yes, yeah, and
a lot more showed up.
When you've never said standing room only, is that a thing? But that worked out well. But the best part of the story is we got these brand new lights, right? And nobody's ever seen it. These Musco lights, they have effects, and it's awesome. And so we score first. We got our first score in the second half, because by the first half it was still daylight, everything. So by the second half it is dark. And so the start of the second half, we scored on the opening kickoff. We radio the press box and say, "Do the strobe." And then one light goes off, and then the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and people think it's broke. People are like, "What's going on? What's going on? What do you do?" They're running around. I was like, "It's okay. It's okay." Referees are looking all around. It's great. And then 3 and out. They do it again. We score, and I was like, "Do the wave." And then the lights go in a wave, like at a college stadium. Whistles start blowing, and the referees come over to us. The white hat comes over. He goes, "You can't do that anymore." The director for Alexandria City goes, "Would you tell Nick Saban that he can't play his lights?" And referee was like, "You can't do it, coach. It's against the rules." And me being the knowledgeable guy, I go, "What rule is that? Where does it say that you can't do light effects?" It just is, coach. Don't do it again, or I'll have to penalize you. And 2 penalties, and your coach is gone. So,
So your lights essentially got a flag.
yes. Well, they didn't get flagged. They got
Close
warned.
up. Warning.
Yes.
Your lights
Yes.
got a warning
If they did it again, they would be out.
on their opening night.
Yes. And so we won. It's a great night. And then we get a call from the Officials Association on Monday morning. Just read the report about your lights. You can't do that anymore. It's like, I think we can. You show me the rule and I will stop. But I've been waiting for 45 years to do these lights. You can't tell me I can't,
45 years.
and you can't tell me I can't use them the way I'm allowed to. He goes, well, I got to call the Virginia High School League on this. And hour later, he's like, I get another call back. Yeah, your lights are okay. You can do what you need to. Thank you.
So I'm just going to say it. I'm wholly kicked off right now at a whole new level because Hollywood lied to me. Because I Remember the Titans, and there were night games that Remember the Titans.
We were on the road those days. They were always on the road, and then when you got to the state games, they were always at a central site. But yeah, you know what? I don't remember the movie. I don't want to get myself in trouble. But I don't remember a movie that bad. I don't think maybe they did have night games in it, but yes.
I was racking my brain the exact same thing, Dustin, trying to be like, wasn't there night games in the movie though?
I mean, I know it probably blows everybody's mind that Hollywood would make something up, but
great.
I mean, I took that to be true, and now my world is shattered today. I don't know if I can go on.
It's going to be okay, Dustin.
Okay.
They have lights now. It's okay, and they do tricks.
And I think about putting myself in those shoes, actually, Jim, and just that situation of, the things that is a cool effect of the lights, and just trying to create a fun fan environment and trying to make it fun for kids, and trying to see what the NCAA is doing, and you see Alabama do it, you see all these big names do it, and all of a sudden you've got it at your level. And it's going to be a big deal. You got a huge crowd that you didn't expect, maybe weren't prepared for that crowd. And then all of a sudden you've got people saying, you can't do that. And I'm thinking as an administrator, what? And I like what you said. Show me the rule that says I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's a rule, then I won't do it. But there is no rule that says I can't do that. So, being able to stand your ground and say, hey, there's not a rule that says I can't do that. But if you tell me there is, I won't. Not trying to buck the administration above you or the officials, or trying to keep them from playing a game. But reality is they're there to officiate the game.
Mm-hmm.
They're not there to officiate whether lights are strobing or waving or doing some cool effect.
It was always during a dead ball. We made sure of that. But I like that you're there. I love that we have officials, a full official set now, but just worry about in between the lines. We'll handle the rest.
Did you revert back to coaching at all in any of that, and just say, hey, I'm gonna bow my neck here a little bit and say, you ain't doing that. You ain't telling me what to do here.
Yes, I was firm on that, but the leadership as a whole there, with our director and our principal and everything, the cooler minds prevailed. It's like, we'll get through today. Let's make it through today, and then we'll fight this fight at another time.
Yeah.
Even though I'm like, they work for us. Darn it. If we say we want to play at night, we're going to play at night. And if we wanted to be in the dark, it'd be in the dark.
We pay them.
Right. They work for us.
So as you look back on these 3 stories that you've shared with us, Jim, are there takeaways that, looking back at your stories, there's been some time through, more years obviously than just this most recent one with the lights. Are there takeaways that you as an administrator can look at and say, you know what, I should have handled this a little differently, or I could have done this, or I hit it out of the park with the way I handled that?
I pride myself as a planner, and you have to plan, and we always try to come up with every scenario that may happen. And if you do that proper planning, a lot of the stuff will work itself out. And I look at these three stories. It's like all the planning in the world you could do, can't help you for that. Like I look at the first story with the drunken chain gang. It's like, yeah, you never seen that. You never even talk about that. And I was young. I didn't know. And the dive one, that showed a little planning. That's why I brought the other printer with me. But again, I brought a printer. I'm ready to print. Who'd have thought that ink gets cold? And then for this football game, it's like we're planning for a full house, but what happens when the house doubles? And but you always, I get, it goes back to even the coaching story. You got to keep a cool head. You got to keep yourself centered. You can't get in the moment so much that you lose sight of the whole picture. And and that's what we deal with on the daily basis. When we look at our coaches, they only deal about their team, their program, and we have to think about everything. And now I think that's the biggest one.
Yeah, and what you're exactly, to build on what you're saying, you also had people kind of in each step of the way that you could turn to
Mm-hmm.
and have advice or rely on or support.
Mm-hmm.
So building that team around you in all of your situations, whether it's the Drunken Chain Crew, the Frozen Ink, Crazy Lights, huge crowd, it doesn't matter. You had someone to turn to and kind of support you on whatever decision you made. So I think that's also a valid point in hearing your stories.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't talk about having that group of diverse people enough. I mean, what Dustin goes through in Arkansas is different than what I'm going through here in Virginia, but there's still that line, that silver, that same lining, that underlying toe of it all. And just having that support group that you can call at any moment. Like when I called them, I was like, is this possible? I mean, if they push me, do I push back, or do I just say, let's have the game?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, excuse me. I think the cool part of that is you built connections, and when the printer issue happened, the kids may not have known about it, but you were calling somebody that you had a connection with that said, "Hey, I need a printer. Do you have one? When can you get here?" And so you see moments of the network. May not be calling me in Arkansas, but you have to find somebody there. I mean, I couldn't have done anything for you with the printer.
Right.
I couldn't have come to your rescue then, but I may have said, "Hey, did you think about printing 100 and see what happens?"
Mm-hmm. Right.
Would you have said that?
No, but I mean, if I'm completely honest, no. But I will now. I will do that now because I've got that in my toolbox now.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you spreading these stories and laughing with us, because I very much enjoyed them.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yeah, so
thank
thank
you,
you very much for taking the time to be with us today.
But
no problem. Anytime.
I know Jim is big time. I call him that all the time. When I talk to him, it's big time. I know just what a great dude he is, and what a great administrator he is, and a great resource for me when I need it. And I know Jim's hard enough to know that anybody in Virginia obviously can reach out to him, but anybody listening could reach out to Jim, and you can learn some stories. And I hope you ask him about wrestling in the wrestling school and try to figure that stuff out. But man, Jim, I appreciate you coming on and giving us a chance with this podcast. I know you do one of your own, so that's big time for us to be able to have somebody of your caliber on here.
I appreciate it. And here's my cheap wrestling plug. If you ever want to learn about Virginia athletic administrators, go seek out On the Road with the VIAAA. It's the podcast put on by the Virginia Interscholastic Athletic Administrating Association. And look for it anywhere you find these podcasts.
And he's not only the host; he's also a client. I mean, we can do all that spill that we need to, but man, Jim, I really appreciate you. A great job with the stories, and we appreciate Ticket Spigot for all they do to allow us to bring this podcast to life and to share these stories of our administrators from across the country, to laugh, to learn, and to, more importantly, just have fun.
Yep. See you all next week.